Welcome back to Freedom Park on this National Youth Day. That is June 16th, looking back 39 years ago to 1976, where the Soweto uprising occurred. I know that's where Ayanda is broadcasting from this morning. So, you know, around the country on a day like this, there's always a very sad atmosphere. But at the same time, it was those youth of that day that stood up for their rights and stood up for what they believed in and for wanting to change the circumstances of their lives. Well, today focusing in on 2015, and let me tell you something, I think the problems facing the youth are nothing to look down on in this day and age, because there are still so many things that need to change and the need to move forward for the youth, whether it be education, whether it be drug addiction, and whether it be what I think is one of the most important things is having a role model and a good leader to look up to, and good parenting, good morals. These are kind of things that every child needs in their lives. Well, let's talk to the National Youth Development Agency now. Let's talk about what they do for the youth of today and see exactly what they're going to do as well. So I've got the CEO with me, Khathu Ramukumba. Good to have you, Khathu. Thank you very much for being our guest on the program.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to your viewers.
So the question I need to ask, and I think I'm going to ask all my guests, is the significance of June 16th now in this day and age. What does it mean to you?
Look, for us, it means that we must be able to recognize the courage of young people of 1976, but emulate it as young people of today, because just like them, we are faced with our own challenges, our own struggles. Today we talk about youth unemployment, which is very high. We talk about poverty and inequality, and these are the challenges that young people are finding themselves in the cold face of. And we are saying that as young people of today, we must be able to borrow from that spirit and be able to face the struggles and wage a war, and a war that we must win. That's why, as the National Youth Development Agency, we have identified a number of programs that are aimed at assisting young people to be able to deal with these challenges. Programs that speaks to access to education, quality education, but also skills development, so that the young people can be able to have skills to offer to the economy, as well as, you know, participation in entrepreneurship.
Since the early hours of this morning, we've been listening to this Interfaith prayer service, and it's a lot of young people praying in there. Why this route? What was the idea behind this?
Look, what we want to say is that young people must be at the center of the journey or the trajectory that South Africa must take moving forward. That's why this year the theme for this month is Youth Moving South Africa Forward. We are saying that young people must stand up themselves and be able to do what they believe needs to be done in order to make our country a better place, which is why we thought that it would be better, it would be a good idea that young people themselves lead in every aspect of today's processions, which is why they are here to be as part of the interface. We expect them to be part of the march that will be leading from here to the showgrounds where the main event will be happening. We expect them again to also participate in the pledge, a process that we have initiated, where they themselves must begin to speak about what they as young people need to do to address their own socio-economic conditions, but also to make South Africa a better place to live in.
We look at the youth of today. Do you feel that they're tolerant of others? When we saw the xenophobic attacks happening, we saw that a lot of those attacks were happening by the youth on foreigners here in the country. And there's a lot of violence amongst our youth today. Do you think that a culture of tolerance is something that we need to instill in our youth a lot more?
Definitely. We think that that is very important. But also we think that we need to be able to address the underlying factors. We think that what we saw that has been referred to as xenophobic attacks are mainly the symptoms of a bigger problem. We think that we must wage a war against poverty and unemployment. And when young people are actively participating in the mainstream economy of our country, they will not have reasons to engage in this intolerant behavior, activities that are destructive to our nation-building project, but also to the quest of uniting Africa for the sake of all Africans.
You talk about a march that's going to be taking place today, or a walk, I suppose. A march is not really the right word to use on a day like this. Where are you going? Where is it ending? If I'm not mistaken, the showgrounds here in Pretoria is going to be the actual event of the day.
Yeah. No, the walk will start here. It's a walk for freedom. It will start here and it will eventually end at Tshwane Event Center, which is where the main event will be happening, where the president will be engaging young people of this country as well as the nation at large, but also listening to young people, because when we were planning this event, the president himself has said he wants to have an engagement with young people. He wants to understand what is it that young people think must be done in order to advance their development by his government, but also by the private sector and civil society organizations as well.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for talking to us here on this National Youth Day here in South Africa. Khathu Ramukumba is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Development Agency. Thank you, and enjoy the day. Enjoy the day today. All right, so we're going to now just, I suppose, keep it down for a little bit here at Freedom Park as the prayers get underway there, and we'll talk about the weather, because one thing I can tell you is freezing here. I know I tell you every time that when that sun starts rising, that's when that temperature starts dropping. So at this point, the sun is rising and it is freezing. I'm not sure what the rest of the country looks like, but let's get you a weather update now.